And I also want to recognize our uh, partners, National Indian Justice Center, Shuffle Labs, and the Kauai Consortium, who Samantha Thornsberry is representing today, and also acknowledge that we are funded by Cal OES. So we appreciate their funding for this, for us to be able to do these trainings today. I just want to give you a little bit of introduction about our speaker. Samantha Thornsberry is the project director for the Kauai Consortium, which is a tribal consortium of mountain tribes, the Kauai, Santa Rosa, and Los Coyotes in Riverside and San Diego counties. The Kauai Consortium provides advocacy for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, human and sex trafficking, stalking, and other criminal victimizations. Samantha will be having a conversation with us today about the principles of safety planning, and she has a few hypotheticals to discuss with us. So we're really looking forward to her presenting today. First, though, we have Carol Oliva with us. Carol is a project developer with National Indian Justice Center and has been involved with the development of this app since its beta version. She knows a lot about the app, and so she will be doing a demonstration of the safety plan tool in the NCTCC mobile self-help app. So for those of you who have just joined us, we ask that you please download the app so that you can follow along if you have not already downloaded it. And Jake, I was wondering if you could put a link to that app in the chat box so that people can find it. Thank you. And so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Carol. Carol, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Well, as Cynthia noted, I've been involved with the development of the app since 2015. And just to give everybody a little bit of an idea of how the app emerged and evolved, back in 2014, the Office for Victims of Crime competed a program called the Vision 21 program. And its purpose was to pilot test methods for using technology to improve victim services. The National Indian Justice Center submitted an application, and we were one of 3 projects that were chosen to create a technology solution. So we had offered that we would create an app whose purpose would be to serve as a clearinghouse of information and provide some tools to crime survivors that they could access safely and anonymously. Now, one of the larger issues we were trying to accomplish with the app was to help clarify jurisdictional questions for both survivors and for their advocates. And we developed a section of the app, Criminal Justice System Explained, that contains a query function to help people sort through, what happens after a crime occurs on tribal land? Where does the jurisdiction lie? So that was a part of the problem statement in developing the app, but we also wanted to focus on safety, justice, and healing as goals. We also acknowledged that there was a very low rate of reporting crimes. So in providing some information about how the justice system worked, we hope that would encourage victims to report. Now, Jake, if you could go back to the login section of the app. When you download the app, you come to this first page, and for a new app download, it will show you 2 choices. You can create a passcode or log in without a passcode. Now, the app does not collect any personally identifying information, so you don't have to sign up in a website, you don't have to provide an email address. So if you create a passcode and enter it, and then you forget the passcode, you're going to have to reinstall the entire app. And this was just a way to create safety and anonymity for users. Can everyone hear me okay? All right.
Can hear you just fine. Thanks.
So you'll notice there's an S button up at the top corner of the app, and that's our safety button. And it's on every screen. And it allows the user to just quickly exit the app and go to a shopping page. Jake, could you demonstrate that? Oh. And now you're shopping at Walmart instead of using a victim services app. So in going back in, Jake may have to log back in.
Yes, and now you all know my terribly complicated password.
We see the main menu, and we're going to go to the safety section. And the series of sub-menus address quite a few topics, beginning with what is a safety plan? This section contains information for a survivor about why they need a safety plan, what it accomplishes, how to make one, and in particular, to remind them that a safety plan is not an order of protection. Now, using the back arrow on the top of the screen, we can go back to the submenu and begin to peruse the safety plan tools that are contained in this section. Under domestic abuse safety, we will find a safety plan template. So there's a couple of buttons at the top of the screen. One, clear info, allows you in 2 steps to clear all of the information that you've input into the form. There is a print button that does not function right now. When we were developing the app in Arizona with an advisory council composed of many different disciplines from Arizona tribal communities and prosecutors' offices and technology specialists, we talked about including printing function, but at that time we decided it wasn't a safe option to provide. So if you were to fill in some of the fields like Jake will now demonstrate, and click on clear info, we see a caution, this information will be lost. And then if he clicks on it again, it will clear the information. As long as you remain inside the app, the information that you input into these form fields will be retained in the app. The minute you leave the app, the form fields will erase. Now, some of the ways to retain the information on a longer term basis without the print function would be to take screenshots of the app sections and to save them on a phone or to text them to your advocate. Or Jake was also offered an idea yesterday where you could have a secure folder on your phone where they might remain safe and secure from a perpetrator seeing them. Again, all having to do with keeping the information and the survivor safe. So that we looked at a lot of safety plan templates online and worked with Will Marling, who at the time was a victim service provider with the National Organization for Victim Assistance. And we selected a couple of these tools to put into the app. If you go back out of this, Jake, and go to the subsections, there's the following one is just a checklist that kind of replicates the same information we looked at just a minute ago. Again, just information a survivor can peruse to inform themselves about what a safety plan consists of. And if we go back out of this, what does the next section say, Jake? I'm Seeing a little blurring. Oh, safety plan with children is the next selection. You could open that up, Jake. So a different template if you're safety planning with children. Again, it's fillable and all of the same principles apply as did before. So Jake, if you want to back out of that, we have a teen safety section that contains a safety plan tool specific to teen dating violence. And if you could back out of that one, Jake. The next section on human trafficking was added when we revised the app with NCTCC. And our advisory council of the last 2 years wanted to include information on human trafficking warning signs and ways to report. So Jake, if you could go back out of that section. We have a section on stalking and harassment. And this one contains information for survivors on that particular crime. And if we can go back out of that. Mobile device safety is our next section, talking about all the ways technology can be used against a survivor to compromise their safety. And the section following that on cybersecurity covers a lot of the same topics. Finally, last year we added a section on elder abuse for NCTCC. And that contains information about warning signs of elder abuse and how to report. Okay, and I think Jake has a polling question now.
Second.
And I encourage you all to interact with that section of the app while we're on the call and practice and see exactly how it works and think about how you might use it. There's a link in the chat box to the straw poll. How likely are you or your clients to use the app? If you can make your selection and vote, and we'll share the results shortly. And as Stephanie shared earlier, this is the really a one-of-a-kind application. It's the only one available in the nation that addresses topics involving tribal crime survivors and many topics. So the app is full of information, useful information and tools. Wow, I like that. Very likely to use it, 41%. We might be waiting on some more votes. We'll give it just a few more seconds and close it out. Okay, very likely to use it, 41%. Might use it, 35. Already use it, 24. and very likely edging up there, so that's great. The next question we have to ask, and we'd like you to put some responses in the chat box because this is an open-ended question. What factors do you think will influence whether or not a person will use the app for safety planning? And that person could either be a survivor, could be an advocate, family member. What factors will influence whether or not a person will use the app for safety planning? You can enter your answers in the chat box. Okay, we have one answer that says fear that the abuser might find it and question why they have it. Familiarity with the app, remembering the tool is there and knowing how to use and navigate it. If the person has the needed device, cell phone or tablet. Discretion, access to a device that supports the app. Might not have a usable device, access to internet, access, knowing how to use the apps, ICWA or family member. So the app itself can be used offline. It's self-contained. You don't need an internet connection to use it. It is small enough to be downloaded on most mobile devices and tablets. Big consideration for us when we were producing the beta version was the size of the app and the amount of information that it contained. All right, we'll close that out. And I want to thank everyone for allowing me to demonstrate the app along with Jake. Jake, thank you for your expert navigation, and I'll turn it back over to Cynthia.
Carol, thank you very much. And thank you to all of our participants who participated in the poll and gave us some feedback. We appreciate that. Next up, we have Samantha Thornsberry. And Samantha, thank you so much for joining us today. And we're going to turn it over to you.
Okay, I'm going to take over the screen. Jake, can you give me permission to do that?
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm going to go here and then make sure I share my computer screen. Was that all I needed to do, Jake? I did the share computer sound, and
you did the share computer sound, then you should be good to share computer screen.
Okay, just wanted to double check. Okay, it's going. I definitely want to change the view. All right. First of all, Miawe, Nanetu Samantha Thornsberry, Naivatem, Neiswetem. So my name is Samantha Thornsberry. Hello, or good afternoon. I am Kauia, and I come from the Lubo family, or the Wolf clan. And I'm super excited to be here today with you. I hope everybody can hear me. Okay. I just realized I need to have access, and let me put the chat back up for myself. Not sure where it went to. There we go. Sorry, just bear with me a moment. There we go. Just trying to figure out how I want my view to look here, a little bit different. So I want to be able to see everybody if you raise your hand, and definitely when you respond in the chat, because we'll be using it a little bit. So the Kauia Consortium, as Cynthia introduced, We're a consortium of 3 tribes. We'd like to call ourselves the Mountain Tribes because we are on a mountain. And we're the Cahuilla Band, the Los Coyotes Band of Cahuilla and Cupeño Indians, and the Santa Rosa Band of Cahuilla Indians. And we got started back in 2010. So this October will have been alive for 11 years. And I came on with the Cahuilla Consortium from the very beginning. I was the first advocate, and I always jokingly said back in the day, let me introduce you to my staff, and it's just me. So, but now today we've grown. We've got a team of 7 people. I'm the program director, but I still provide advocacy as our numbers, have increased. There's a need for me to also do advocacy work. And I jokingly say I'm the janitor on Fridays. So we're just a team that always pitches in and try our very best. And right now, we have seen our numbers increase due to the pandemic. And we, at the height of it, we're helping 27 people at one time. Right now, we're down to 19, but we receive calls daily. So we've been very busy. And I'm just going to jump into this. I have to give my disclaimer because we are federally funded. We have our base funding was renewed in 2018, and through the OVW, DOJ's Office of Violence Against Women. But we also do have currently in 2018, we also went after the Office of Violence Against Crime, their tribal set-aside funding, and 1 CTAS grant as well. But we're all federally funded, and we've increased through the years the amount of service that we can provide to victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, but now also victims of crime. This is kind of my own disclaimer, just because I always feel the need to say this, but all the information that I'm going to talk about today are based on my thoughts, opinions, and experiences that I've had through the 11 years that I've been working in advocacy, and just my life in general, and my team and what we've been doing. And the purpose is not to offend, anger, or malign any group or entity or person. It's just, I just want to open up real communication and promote effective solutions to real issues related to the work that we're doing to assist DV and SA victims. And I always welcome sincere criticisms. I am definitely a person engaged in learning, and I know that I don't know. I always jokingly say, the day I stop learning will be the day that I'm 6 feet under. That's just who I am. I'm going to always apologize ahead of time because sometimes I tend to be very direct, assertive. I could probably be a little more diplomatic at times, and that's something I'm working on. And sometimes I try to be funny. Maybe my timing's not always appropriate. And so I just want you to know that that's my coping mechanism, because many of you, I'm sure, that are on the call doing this type of work in your communities, self-care is really important. I kind of like that about the app, and I've already looked over some of the information on the self-care module. So I'm just going to jump into this. Move this box over here. Again, I know that many of you are familiar with everything I'm going to talk about. I hope that maybe what I say today will make you think about something maybe a little differently. I don't know, or you get one thing out of it, and that is safety planning and utilizing this tool, this new tool. I want to preface my title. You notice I mentioned listening to your gut instinct. My father was a very instinctual person, and he kind of always taught us that, when you have that gut feeling, or the hair on the back of your neck stands up, or you get goosebumps, or whatever it is, that that intuition, you shouldn't ignore it. And so I'm going to kind of come back to that every now and again. And I think what happens with some of our clients is they've been told through the, you know, the stages of the relationship and the abuse and the dysfunction that I immediately thought of gaslighting, but that, you know, they've been beaten down. Nobody's going to believe you. And slowly all of those things lead to, you know, curtailing or pushing that gut instinct down. And so I always talk about this with our clients because it's not something hard. We all have it. We feel it. But whatever it is that's in our environment, we ignore it. So it's like a coming back to that. And I'll talk more about it as we go on. But I've always thought of safety planning, it's a process with stages. And in the line of work that we've done, that's what we've seen. People come to us at various stages. And I like, you know, whenever anything happens, when the police come in and they say they're staging for that, whatever it is, if it's a fire or a natural disaster, they have a staging place and a plan, right? I kind of equate that to what we're talking about today in safety planning. So you might have, you know, the stage one is just when that client is planning to leave the relationship. Stage two might be, you know, basic services like they've already left, but they actually need a place to go. And there's certain things that they need to do. Maybe it's go and file a police report. Maybe they need medical attention. Maybe it's they need something to wear and a meal while they're dealing with that trauma of having already left. Maybe they come to us in stage three and they're talking about, they approach us with, where do we go? We need the basics, like that emergent stage is over in 1 and 2, and now here we are and we need food, clothing, shelter. And then from there we kind of go into more of a transitional stage 4, which is kind of getting back to some semblance of daily life. So what I know that I see in my experience, and what many of you have dealt with, is the fact that safety planning is a process. Every client is different. Every situation is different. And so the best advice is just be prepared, right? So in the past, and now really, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know about the app until recently. Gosh, I wish I had known about it when it first came out, because I definitely see a use for it, and we're going to start using it, encouraging our clients to use it. This is old school, but don't get me wrong, I'm not poo-pooing old school. A plan is a plan. I don't care if you have a form, if it's a piece of paper or the back of a cardboard box. It's just writing something down, developing a plan, and being prepared for this information when you need it. And you might be thinking, you know, as we go through, so this is the safety plan that we kind of modeled, the one that we put together for our clients. And you can kind of see step 4, here's safety with a protection order. Let me go back to the beginning. Safety during a violent incident. I don't know about you, but what I've seen with my clients, and even myself, in an emergency situation, in a dealing with trauma that's happening right now, sometimes your brain just kind of takes a back seat. And so somebody might be asking you something, or you need to know how to respond, and you just can't figure it out. So you look to the safety plan, and it's like, okay, somebody asks you where the assault happened, what county, and maybe at that time you just completely don't know. You can go back to the safety plan. The client can say, oh, okay, here's my safety plan. Maybe it's saved on their phone. Maybe they have a paper copy or whatever. So this is, again, a little bit old school, but all of this information, and yes, I can email it out, but you can see we just went to the National Center of Domestic and Sexual Violence, and if you just Google safety plans, this will come up. It's a pretty good one. What we did was we kind of copy and pasted certain things we liked and made more space for people to write. But all of this is in this app. So I was really blown away when I opened the app, and I was just like, wow, it encompasses so much information. And I'm going to keep referring back to it as I go through this presentation, because there's so much to talk about when you think about safety planning. And, you know, I only have a set time today, but I could talk for a long time on this topic. It's always kind of picking and choosing, you know, cherry picking. What are those real key things? So there's so much more to explore that's on this, and I would encourage you to look over every module that's on this app because it's got great information. So again, what do we talk to our clients about when we're talking about safety planning? Well, we've got to talk to them about, you know, what do you do? How do you remain safe when you're in that explosion? When violence is either happening or about to happen, right? So we talk to them literally. There's nothing off the table or too simple to talk about. If you're in an explosion in the living room, you need to think about how you exit the living room. I mean, going down to the very logistics of the space that you're in, okay? You need to talk about how you can call for help and what does that look like. You need to talk about developing code words. I'm gonna skip the ordering pizza when calling 911 because I have an example in the next slide. You need to talk about, well, what do you take with you when you leave? Keys, phone, an ID, maybe the kid's birth certificate, a credit card, your CalFresh EBT card. We always try to encourage our clients that if you need to leave, you need to leave, and anything can be replaced. What can't be replaced is your life. So at the end of the day, if you can't leave with anything, that's okay too, right? All this information is on the app, by the way. Safety in your home, maybe you've made it to stage 4 in your new life. We like to talk about changing routines. And again, coming back to that, listen to your gut. And we encourage folks to stay off social media. You know, a lot of people are trying to stay safe. They're in an undisclosed place, but then they post, you know, little Johnny's first day of school photo in front of the school. So we really try to counsel our clients on, because you just forget, you know. Everybody wants to post or share their kid's first day of school. That's a natural thing. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just you have to be mindful of keeping you and your kids safe when you're in a certain volatile situation. We counsel folks about, let's talk about safety for the kids. And I'm glad that was included on the app as well as for teenagers, because oftentimes they're kind of, for lack of a better way to put it, collateral damage. We're always dealing with the adult. Don't forget about the kids, you know? And does the school need to know what's going on? What about at the work site? Does the client's workplace need to know what's going on? Do they need to know that there's a restraining order in place? Do they need to have a picture on file, if they have security there, of the perpetrator? And then, you know, the whole component of safety and emotional health. You know, as I go through this and I talk about, you know, advocacy efforts, as you guys all well know, I'm sure, it's just support, support, and support. And there's a lot of ways that, you know, that support looks very different for many different people. And there's a lot of variations and resources. I love the self-care on here. Wonderful. Check it out. This box is not my friend. So here, I was just giving you all of this on the screen that I've listed. It's in the checklist on the app. I wanted to talk about, you know, part of safety planning is also, you know, educating, because you might have a client, you guys probably have, who they come to you and you're like, you know, I don't feel like I need to do that. So part of our outreach and how we talk to clients and even in our community, when we do outreach, we actually ordered this product, and the idea behind it is hidden within plain sight. Okay. And I actually put the box together, and I have it on my outreach table last year. Of course, we haven't been able to do any tabling events because of COVID, but first of all, I love it because it's definitely an attention getter. And you will have tons of people coming over to your outreach table to ask you why you have a box of tampons on your table. And what I tell them is, and I try to give them out as well, this is the concept of hidden within plain sight, and this goes back to safety planning. On the bottom of the box, you actually have a list of certain things that would be good to put in this box, so when you're ever in an emergent situation and you need to get out of there, you can grab the box and go. Here's a little example of some money and a debit card, but you know, we'll tell folks to put in their ID, their social security card, whatever. A burner cell phone. Oftentimes we give out pay-as-you-go phones. And this is a place where, you know, nobody's gonna wanna see what's in the box. They think it's just a simple box of tampons. Also, we talk a lot about planning to leave. And what we've done here, my team, we've put together these, we call them go bags. So what we do is, you can see I put a list. We're actually working on these right now. They're in the office that's next to me. It's a little bit of a mess. We're waiting for things to come in. You can see our checklist. We're waiting for certain items that we haven't checked off yet. And we have these great duffel bags. And we encourage people, again, if you have to leave, things can be replaced. We can help you get toiletries, clothing, whatever. We can take you to the DMV and get you an ID. So the idea is, you know, don't let this inhibit you getting out of a dangerous situation. Okay? And you know, we've had people come to us, and I'm going to talk about some cases. They didn't have anything. One of my examples, we'll talk about Carol. She came to us wearing socks, a oversized, I think it was her father's t-shirt, the leggings that she ran away in, and that was it. We have all of that in here. I did want to mention real quickly, I think this is kind of interesting. There's new ways to ask for help. And people, whether you're a service provider or not, people are being very unique and covert in the ways that they're asking for help and getting ideas. And this comes back to just planning and safety, right? So I'm going to play this one little video. Let's hope it works. And then I'll talk about these other things in a moment.
911, operator 901. Where's the emergency?
127 Brymere.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushroom.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency line.
How long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
I love that. When it's hard to talk, it's up to us to listen. Just going back to the unique ways that people are putting out, you know, lifelines literally for people. Here's something, I just found this on Facebook last week, and this is what it says. If you're stuck in quarantine with a toxic or abusive partner, message me about my natural skincare products. I don't have any. And I will know to continually check in on you. If you ask me about a free sample and include your address, I will know to contact the police. There has been a 40% increase in domestic violence cases since this quarantine. Please don't be afraid to reach out. And then she shared her picture of her friend. And this was just, man, how powerful and impactful was that? And it just, this is all planning, right? This is like having that code word. And then I remembered, I don't know if many of you remember this. It's been a few years back. I tried to find some information on it and I was kind of unsuccessful, but I do remember this, that they were asking people to wear a safety pin on their lapel. And that would mean that I'm somebody that can help you. But there was some controversy about this because I think it was along the lines of, hey, don't wear the safety pin if you're not prepared to, you know, have a plan and that you know what you're doing, because you could really number one, put yourself in danger, but make the situation worse. So I'm just kind of bringing up, I'm not saying these are good or bad or the otherwise. I'm just providing the information that this is what we see happening. Yeah, Stephanie, I agree. Chills. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to scroll with my mouse and I'm just all ramped up to give you guys this information. So one of the things that I was very interested in, when you're talking about safety planning, you start thinking about a lot of things and researching, but I had saw a news story, and I'm gonna share it with you on the next slide, about this idea of a safe place. Because I don't know about you guys, but a lot of these explosions, they don't happen Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, right? It's gonna be after hours. I've heard clients say, I didn't wanna call you. It was Friday night at 11 o'clock, stuff like that. So just having this idea of, this was created, the safe place for youth. But as you'll see in the news story, the staff are trained to help anybody who's in need. So let me go to the next slide.
Now to the escape of that woman held against her will. McDonald's workers are getting credit tonight for helping with that escape. Thanks for joining us. I'm Curtis Mink.
And I'm Julie Watts. A really incredible story. CBS 13's Linda Muma is live in Lodi with this story of survival.
Yeah, the woman is safe and that man is in jail thanks to the quick thinking crew working inside this McDonald's. Sheriff deputies say that the woman walked into the Flag City McDonald's here in Lodi and asked them to call 911 and to hide her. Then investigators say the man walked into the restaurant to get her back. Some scary moments for a Sacramento woman desperately trying to escape her abuser.
She did come in pretty frantic.
As soon as she walked in on Christmas Eve and asked for employees to hide her.
Kind of was one of those like fight or fight kind of things. They just took over and they didn't hesitate.
It turns out,
oh, I'm sorry.
This is a designated safe place with employees trained to handle all kinds of emergencies. In this case, they urged the woman to use the restroom.
Quick thinking on her part, she provided a license plate to the employees here at McDonald's.
When she came out, deputies with the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office say she attempted to place an order at the counter. But this man, Eduardo Valenzuela, walked in and demanded she go outside.
And he said, no, you can place the order through the drive-thru.
When she pulled up to the window, Lopez says she mouthed the words, "Help me," and that's when the employees took action.
Our restaurant manager had our employees actually hold up the drive-thru line so that we were then able to stop that car from moving forward.
When deputies arrived, they were quickly rushed outside to the drive-thru, ordering Valenzuela out of the car and discovering a loaded stolen revolver tucked away inside. The restaurant credits their employees for taking their emergency training seriously.
It was such an exciting and proud moment for us to know that what we're doing is working and that our employees are comfortable handling things like that.
And deputies say that Valenzuela had been violent with the woman in the past. They say that this whole thing started when he demanded that she take him to see his family in Atwater, or he would, quote, use his gun. He never made it there, though. He tonight sits in jail at the San Joaquin County Sheriff's office. Back to you
Great
guys.
job to McDonald's for that training. All right, Linda, thank you. We now know.
I just think that's fantastic, and not sure why I can't get my chat box back. Oh, maybe if I do this. Sorry, guys. Okay, well, I'm just going to move on. I wanted to say about this program. You can go to their website and actually put in your zip code, and it will tell you, for example, for me, over 9,000 safe places came up. And McDonald's, by the way, they stay open, and that advertisement, you could see their sign till 1 a.m. So I thought that was just really interesting, and this could be part of the plan, you know, wondering where to go. So now let's talk about some cases. And I'm going to try again to get my chat going. Just don't know where the silly thing is. Cynthia, you may have to help me with monitoring the chat, since I can't figure out how to get mine back.
I can do that.
Okay.
So far, I don't see anything after Stephanie said chills.
Okay,
that
great.
Video.
I have some questions I'll be asking and some conversation, so you may have to help me out there. Just gonna try that one more time.
I've got your back.
Okay, thanks. All right, so just so you know that I have altered names, places, any identifying details, and you know, always trying to protect our clients' anonymity and confidentiality. And these are also old cases, nothing current, but these were real. The question is, did they all have positive outcomes? Well, we'll come back to that. So the first person I want to talk about, let me introduce you to Anna. Anna was assaulted by her husband, who's the father of her 4 children. She suffered a traumatic brain injury as a result of his abuse. She fled the state that they had been living in and came to California. She was struggling to live and care for her children, and she moved from shelter to shelter for an extended period of time. Additionally, she had difficulty walking and was prone to seizures. She called the Kauai Consortium, us, when the stay at one of the shelters was about to expire. And this was the 4th shelter that she had been in. She had moved around for over a year in various places. Honestly, I think part of moving around like this probably kept her safe as well. Not that that was a great experience for her and her family. So when she came to us, she had a cell phone, she had some clothing, and her 4 kids, and their ages were from, you know, like a tween to a 4-year-old. So just wondering, what do we do first? Can anybody share some ideas in the chat? Oh, got my chat back. It's connected to the participants. Yay. So what would you suggest we do first for Anna? Oh, medical assessment of the traumatic brain injury. wondering, well, her stay, she had to leave. By the time she contacted us, we had about 2 days to get her and take her somewhere else. Yeah, assisting and securing a new location. Okay. All right. Ask her what she feels she can do. Any family that she could stay with. Yeah, Carmen, that's, shelter sometimes is very difficult to find placement. And if you have any family that could be a support, that's always, question number one. Yeah, you guys are right on top of it. So basically, Anna's coming to us in the stage 3, the shelter and the basics. So you guys are all right. That's exactly what we did. Let me get this out of there we go. So we did find temporary shelter. I should back up a minute because we had to find transportation that was big enough for 5 people. At that time, we now have 2 program cars that that are SUVs. At the time, we had one tiny Toyota Prius. And that, so what we did was we asked one of the consortium tribes who had a van if we could use it. And so even just thinking about transportation, and then we found a temporary shelter. Then we began to work about gathering her documents. She didn't have an ID. She had one but lost it in one of the shelters. She needed assistance in moving her general assistance to the proper county because she came to us from a different county. She needed to get birth certificates and immunization records for her kids and social security cards for everybody. We needed to get them groceries, clothing. They had been in shelter so long, the kids had been wearing clothes that they were clearly growing out of. We needed to transport her to appointments. Those appointments included medical care, definitely. She had went over a year without some needed medications. So yeah, once we're in a place where we could fill out the safety plan, we tried to emphasize to her that she was safe, the location was undisclosed, and just reassure her that there's some level of safety in kind of being anonymous where she was at. So we kind of reverted back to our plan. So just wondering if you guys think the question is, Anna believes that she is safe from her perpetrator. Why do you think she believes this? Any input? Oh, I'm sorry. This is no contact in there. I'm sorry. I'll give you options to help you out. Sorry, I forgot. Anna's in a different state. No one knows where she's at. The perpetrator is incarcerated in another state, so he can't get to her. There's been no contact with the perpetrator since his arrest. Anna has a new environment free of abuse and violence, a new life. All of these. None of these. Yeah. Liz says, Michaela says D, Liz says E, Molly says D, Samantha says E. Yeah, she believed all of this, right? And we were kind of, as well. Definitely. But it still begs the question, do you think Anna's safe, even at this point? Kelly says no. Samantha says no. I'm sorry, I can't. Arkley? I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. No. Kayla says no. Liz says no. Paula says not really. And you're right. Oh, this was my little reminder to make sure that I read your responses from the chat. So Anna is moving to stage 4. Okay. So we eventually get to a point where she's out of shelter, and we assist her and the kids in moving to a new home of their own, a rental, big enough for them. Anna's health is not good. She's still dealing with TBI and seizures. We discover that she has diabetic neuropathy, which is part of the problem of her not being able to walk well. And we definitely assist her with getting the Medi-Cal set up, finding a doctor now in her new location where she has the rental. And the whole family needs to go to the doctor for various medical concerns. We definitely want to start supporting them with counseling and therapy. And I will tell you at this time, and many of you guys really, I'm sure you understand this, a lot of times when a family who's been through a lot of trauma like Anna's, when they finally get to kind of a safe space, things become very difficult for them, and the kids were really struggling. They began to act out in a number of different ways, and the older tweens were really voicing missing their dad, okay? So, but life is going on, and we're assisting them, you know, with everything that we possibly can. Anna enrolls all the kids in school, and though money is a struggle, but with assistance, they're making do and they're moving forward. And we eventually help her to sign up for disability because her health concerns were very, they were going to be long lasting. Until, guess what happens? All of you guys were right. One day, out of the blue, Anna receives a call on her cell phone from the perpetrator. So, how do you think Anna's perpetrator had her phone number? A, one of the kids called their dad using Anna's phone. B, one of the kids emailed a family friend from a school computer and provided information about where they were living and going to school, including their contact information. C, proof of service and court documents were provided some information to the perpetrator. D, Anna posted a first day of school photo on Facebook. Yeah. Okay, everybody's like, a child, A, Anna, D, A. Well, here's the answer. All of this happened not simultaneously, but one thing at a time. B occurred first. One of the kids did email, I said a family friend, but I do remember it, and it was her auntie, the dad's sister. And then C happened. So he knew that they were in another state, and that being California. Then A happened. Then D happened. Yeah, you're right, Paula. It was all of these. Exactly. So again, I guess my point is you can safety plan, but what you have to remember is that plan, whether it's a document or on the app, it's a living plan that needs to be amended and updated and changed according to where a client and their family is at any given day and time and how their environment changes. So here's the big question to you guys. I'm really putting you guys to work today, but now what? How do we keep Anna safe? Any ideas? It's like you have to take a big breath, right? Help them get new Social Security cards, name changes, change of name, restraining order, continue the supportive services, change a phone number. Yeah, you guys are on top of it. So that's what we actually did, all of these things, and probably much more. This is one slide, right? So we amended the client's original safety plan immediately to address her new living situation. Yeah, teach her how to respond when he contacts them, because it could always happen. That's a great one, because what do you think Anna's reaction was when she answered that phone? Totally went back to that trauma. She was living it again, right? And do you think, I guess he could have said, all the lovey-dovey things and been all nice, but he wasn't. He was demanding to see his kids, and where do you take my kids, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, talking about how to respond if that ever happened again. We can do all those things, but Anna has to be willing to make the change. And I have to say, she was willing. It was super hard because of all of especially the medical condition. So we looked at the perpetrator up in the system, and this was really our bad. I think we kind of fell in line with Anna that, hey, she feels really safe. He doesn't know where she's at and all of these things. We should have done this from the very beginning, but we learned, right? We looked him up so that we knew if he was in jail, and we registered with the victim notification registration system, because he was a type of person in and out of jail. So then we were notified, right? Or she was, sorry. And we did begin working on restraining order, and we began to file all the paperwork and help her with custody and divorce. And we lucked out because he was in jail at the time when we needed to do service. And so we had him served in jail. We did, as you said, helped her change her cell phone number. We continued the therapy and the counseling, and they needed so much care. The older kids really were struggling. Why, they didn't see their dad as a bad guy. So, and we weren't focusing on making him the bad guy, but there was a lot of counseling. They had to understand that he had bad habits, and he was unsafe for them to be around. And we later assisted them to move to a different location, so through another service provider. So they did actually end up moving. And through the whole process and the courts, and again, I have one slide. This could be probably 10 to do all the details. Yeah, it is so much harder for older kids. I agree with you. And we did get a CPO on this, and it was extended because he violated it with that phone call, and some other things that he did. But so that was great. So that's Anna. All righty. Oh, his family worked in law enforcement, so we knew that's how he was finding her. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Paul. I really appreciate that. Some of these cases, and let me tell you, Anna was with us for 2 years, 24 months. So there's a lot more I could talk about, but just kind of hitting on the points that have to do with safety planning, especially. But and it changed. I guess that's what I want to emphasize. I want to introduce you now to Brittany. So Brittany called the CCVAP, that's us, Kauai Consortium Victim Advocacy Program, the hotline. She talked to an advocate, and she basically said, I'm not ready to leave. She expressed concern about leaving with nothing being, she did not have a current ID. She did not have her birth certificate. She wasn't able to get it from her parents because they were not a support to her. No social security card, absolutely no money. She didn't work and was reliant upon her boyfriend, and she did not have transportation. So also Brittany had a 2-year-old daughter, and she was 4 months pregnant. The boyfriend, who is the perpetrator, is the father of her child and her soon-to-be baby. Brittany expressed that she felt controlled. She had zero financial freedom. She could not leave the house without someone taking her, and they lived with his family, the boyfriend's mother and boyfriend. So she was very reliant upon his family and him for everything. And she said she was basically subjected to a lot of verbal and emotional abuse daily. She did not disclose any physical abuse But it was the emotional and verbal abuse that made her, feel like she was walking on eggshells. She was very scared all the time. And, she expressed to us that she wanted to get a job. She wanted to find her own place. And she mentioned, though, that she would agree to counseling, couples counseling, if the boyfriend would go. Okay. So that's kind of the first introduction. So Brittany's in a different stage. She's in the leaving stage, right? But she hasn't left yet. So how will our safety planning our approach be different for Brittany? Well, many of you know already that leaving is the most dangerous stage, right? It's the most volatile. So we were a little bit strategic in who we assigned, now that I actually have other advocates other than myself, who we assigned to be Brittany's advocate. And so we chose Sarah as Brittany's advocate because Sarah was more Brittany's age, and kind of the story that was created actually by Brittany was that Brittany met Sarah at the park. They became fast friends. Sarah also had a 2-year-old, and they were going to meet at the park every once in a while as play dates for the kids. And what we did is every play date turned out to be Sarah providing some sort of advocacy for her. So the safety plan really implemented an exit strategy. And so I love the app because these are things that, I'll be honest with you, I didn't sit down and read everything on the app in one sitting. I read it as I kind of needed to and when I wanted to. And I think that's the beauty of having all that information on those different modules on one place. And so, okay, so we talked about hiding things in plain sight. We did provide her with a burner cell phone. Now, she had a cell phone, but it was connected to her boyfriend and mother's plan. She would always conveniently forget to bring her cell phone whenever they went to the park. So there was a lot of thinking that went into everything that we did in order to, number one, keep Brittany safe, keep our advocates safe, and still kind of move forward with this plan for leaving. So we talked to Brittany about ways that she could de-escalate kind of those volatile situations before the explosion. And we brainstormed with her actually on the list, hey, let's make a list of what do you think pushes his buttons? And let's write it down. One of the things she said was, when I ignore him. So we said, okay, so make a point to, look at him and do some nonverbal, okay, right? We also talked about, what are things that you could do to leave like a tense situation, before the explosion? And she said that if she was tending to any of her child's needs, then he was okay with that. They could be in the middle of something, and then she would say, as an example, oh, you need a diaper change bad. And then that would take her and the little girl to another room, and she would just not come back to the living room or whatever it was. And we also identified code words like the example of ordering a pizza, or phrases with her advocate, so that if she needed to leave, or she needed help in any way, Sarah would know, and we could intervene in some way. And it just depends. We could pick her up at an undisclosed site if she could make it out of the house, or we could call 911 for her, or whatever it was. We definitely offered counseling and therapy. Unfortunately, we couldn't offer the couples counseling, but we provided her resources for that. And the encouragement was, hey, why don't you do some individual counseling with us? Here's some resources we're going to provide you if you want to take time to do the couples counseling. So Brittany wasn't with us for long officially, but she's not still with us, but she was with us unofficially for a while. And And unofficially, she still kind of makes contact with us every once in a while. She ended up getting a job, which really improved her financial situation. That was always a bone of contention with her boyfriend. And, you know, having your own money promotes kind of, she started to feel more independent. And all those trips to the park, remember, we were able to help her obtain all the documents that she needed to get that job. And then she has them when she's ready to leave. Again, we try to provide her the counseling resources. We're unsure. She did a little bit of counseling with us, but we don't know if she did the couples counseling. And again, every once in a while, she reaches out to Sarah, her advocate. But what's so important, I want to emphasize, this is kind of like a small snippet of Brittany. Again, she wasn't with us long, but now we know she has the tools. We provide a lot of our clients those pay-as-you-go cell phones. And once we saw this app, our team, we thought, hey, every pay-as-you-go cell phone, what we do, we start them up, we get them set up, we download Uber or Lyft onto them, and we can also pre-download this app for them. We're having discussions about that. So I was thinking Sarah needs to reach out to Brittany and share this app with her because, you know, she may be back. And I just want to say I'm happy that she has the tools, that we had the time to talk to her, and we're always here if she comes back to us. And there's this is a person that could utilize this. All right. So let me introduce you to Carol. Uh-oh, what did I just do? I have no idea. There we go. Sorry, guys. All right. I want to say this case was probably our most serious case to date. The client was with us for a long time. We had some really emotional things occur. Yeah, she's really important to me. So I hope that I don't get too emotional talking about this, but I'll try to rein it in a little bit. I know all of you guys understand the work that we do. It is emotional. You can't run away from that. And I do think it's okay to, you know, to show that emotion at times. So Carol was assaulted in a garage by her boyfriend. She ran out of the garage down the street to a neighbor. She borrows the neighbor's cell phone and she calls 911. She tells the 911 dispatch, and this is really wonderful, that she needs an ambulance. You know, oftentimes they'll ask. So the ambulance actually arrived to her before the police did, which was a really great thing because her boyfriend was running down the street trying to get to her. So they load her up in the ambulance and they take her to a nearby hospital. She cannot do a lot of talking to the ambulance drivers and the first people on the scene because she is vomiting quite a bit. She has lacerations on her, couple lacerations on her face, cut on her leg, and she's kind of passing in and out while she's in the ambulance. So they get her to the local hospital. Upon further exam, Carol reveals that she's pregnant. So the local hospital, they're concerned about her. They end up deciding to transport her to another hospital that's in a neighboring county, specifically because they had a neonatal unit. So Carol has not revealed at this time. They also gave her some medication, as you know, for nausea that makes you very sleepy, right? So she has not revealed that she's a victim of domestic violence. So when the boyfriend shows up at the hospital, he's actually allowed entrance. And I see I should have switched this around. He was allowed entrance at the hospital, the first hospital, okay? So they don't know that he's the perpetrator. Nobody knows at this point. So she makes it to the neonatal hospital and he goes there. And again, they don't know, so they allow him entrance. The nurses and the doctors, over a period of time, she was in there for, I think, 4 days. They feel like they sense tension and some weirdness going on, okay? The nurses notice that the boyfriend is always, when they walk into the room to clear the tray or do whatever, they notice that he's always eating Carol's food, okay? Lunch and dinner trays being delivered. At one point, they think they hear arguing, like raised voices. And so the nurse, thank you, healthcare workers, and the doctor, they intervene by coming in and they tell Carol, we're going to take you for some tests. And then what they really do is take her down, I think, to another floor into a room, and they talk to her. And what Carol discloses to them is the fact that her boyfriend, that scuffling and yelling that they heard, had tried to smother her with a pillow at the hospital, and he tried to tear the IVs out of her arm. And she confirms to them that her injuries were a direct result of her boyfriend beating her up in the garage. So the hospital immediately, they have different codes. I think it was a code gray. You might want to Google that. I think that's what it was, just from memory. And they call 911. The police arrive and they go to Carol first and they take her statement. But when they go to the police, and it's been some amount of time, I have to say, the boyfriend can't be found. He's left the hospital. Maybe he thought something was up. So Carol comes to us on stage 2, which is the transport and basic. It's very emergent. The stage is very emergent. So I'm trying to be funny here, but this isn't very funny. But through a friend of a friend who knew a friend who heard about our program, Carol's mom and dad, they actually, again, through a weird network, you know how that goes, especially in Indian country probably, they call us. And they tell us that Carol's getting out of the hospital. She's still in the hospital. They have a code in the hospital. They're not allowing him entrance. By the way, his mother does call the hospital. And then she eventually comes down 5 a.m. in the morning. And because of all the reporting and just Carol telling them about this family, they don't allow her in. And, they cannot give any information because of HIPAA. So that was wonderful. But Carol they're telling us, mom and dad are saying she's getting out of the hospital tomorrow. She is not safe to stay with us. They live 5.3 miles from the perpetrator's house in the same town, and they have no idea where the perpetrator is or if he's been arrested. There is a warrant out for his arrest after that. So the advocate, being me and my part-time advocate, Terry, we start, oh gosh, we've got, we're going to go pick her up tomorrow. And so we have to find a shelter. Oh, I'm sorry, I have go bag. That should be my little typing error, a go bag. And we begin to just prepare to pick Carol up on the next day. So the advocate picks up Carol the next day and transports her to a shelter. Carol is clearly beaten up and battered and bruised. She can barely talk. Here's my question to you guys. Should the advocate speak to Carol about safety planning at this time? Anybody want to chime in? My little reminder to myself. Kelly says yes. Carmen says yes in case she goes back. We basically, what we do is we also learned that she has it's called 22 deletion syndrome. It's also known as DeGeorge syndrome. And we didn't know anything about that at the time. But what we realized in talking with her, Samantha says, I would wait to go into a lot of detail. What we end up doing is just reassuring her that we're going to do everything in our power to keep her safe, that we believe her, that we are here to support her. We really have to treat her with kid gloves. She's very vulnerable, Not to mention she was, I believe, 7 months pregnant, and she didn't look like she was pregnant at all. I'll share why in a minute, but so she tells us right away that she has this 22 deletion syndrome, and we didn't know what that was. But one thing I noticed is in her speech, her speech was somewhat slurred, and I can only describe it as talking to her was like, if you were on the phone, you would think you were talking to somebody that was inebriated, like had been drinking, okay? It wasn't that she couldn't talk and put her thoughts together. It was kind of difficult just to hear and understand the speech. So that was something we had to okay, we're gonna have to look that up so we understand it better. Again, she came out wearing her dad's oversized t-shirt, leggings that, by the way, she had been wearing when she was assaulted, and socks. And it was a month with cold weather. So we immediately had the go bag. Inside our go bag, we have some winter slippers, and a hoodie jacket. We got her comfortable, and we took her to a shelter. Yeah, so I forgot my question, why or why not? Yeah, too much detail can overwhelm. That's why when you break up the safety plan into more palatable bites, what happens when you gulp your meal? You get indigestion, right? So some things are more palatable in bites, especially, when you're seeing a client at a different stage, and if their trauma is just really live and in your face, then you know that it's little bites go a long way at this point. So what does Carol's safety plan look like? So first we file a police report. Again, we get her in shelter. She's in an undisclosed place, food, clothing. We're checking on her. But these are the things we're also doing behind the scenes to assist her as well. Unfortunately, fortunately, the county where the original assault took place, we filed a police report and the DA immediately said he's going to pick it up. Unfortunately, the assault that happened in the hospital in a different county didn't go as we thought it would, especially with the medical reports and the assistance of the hospital. I even talked to that investigator, and he asked me, the first question was if she had a drug problem, because the perpetrator had said she had a drug problem. And when the investigator called to talk to her, not in person, but over the phone, she sounded inebriated, under the influence. And I immediately had to educate him that she had, delayed speech due to a disability. So, but even after everything we said and did and appealing to the DA, it went nowhere in that county, sadly. So what we learned about her situation that was much more severe than just this one incident or this one assault, she had been held against her will for a long time. She had been deprived of food, clothing. For example, if she took a shower and wanted to get dressed, but if the perpetrator didn't want her to dress after taking a shower, or maybe only wear a t-shirt with no underwear, then that's what she had to do. She had no medical care, so no prenatal care. Remember, she was about 7 months pregnant. She looked so thin, she didn't look pregnant at all because she was deprived and controlled with food. This always gets to me because food in Native American culture is super important. I took her grocery shopping for the first time, and everything she picked up, she turned and asked me, and this is an adult, saying, "Can I get this?" And it just did something to me that it was hard. It was so hard. And she told me that, basically she was in charge of the housekeeping. His whole family lived in this home, and she would have to clean the dishes, and she basically ate what was left on the plates as she was washing the dishes. So she had no sustenance in a long time. it actually was difficult for her to start eating. There was extensive sexual abuse, not only by the boyfriend perpetrator, but also by the father. We immediately connected to the Family Justice Center in our county because we realized this is some heavy duty stuff. We need help. You know, we never poo-poo outside help because it's all about the client and what it is that they need. We needed support as well because this was going to be a serious case for the courts, and at that time we didn't have any VOCA funding. So we also used the FJC was a better meeting place to do all the police interviews, and they provided us all the jailing information. So that was a wonderful partnership. I can't say enough about the Family Justice Center. We immediately got her to a doctor as soon as we possibly could. She had not had any prenatal care. So you guys, I'm holding it in though. On her first OB appointment, we were told to take her to the hospital because she needed to have a C-section. And part of that malnourishment meant that there wasn't enough amniotic fluid for the baby, so they wanted to get the baby out immediately. Wow, I'm telling you guys, so I was at a conference, an OVW conference, and I was in the area where the advocate was going to take her. So I immediately went there. Before I knew it, I was gowned up and I was in the operating room with her as she had a C-section. And that was an experience that I will never forget. I think I was almost just as scared as she was, but I just kept my cool. I think everybody in the room thought I was her mom, which I was totally okay with. Yeah, it was a really interesting experience, and I'm happy to have had that experience with her. She was in a terrible place. So, but while I was there, one thing that we did that was wonderful, we talked to the hospital, had a social worker. We talked to her about what was going on. They made sure that she was safe while she was there, that the baby was safe. They put alert on her medical record, so no information could be given out. If anybody like her parents or I called, we had a special code. So wonderful, wonderful job by the hospital and the healthcare workers. And actually, again, the boyfriend's mother had been calling around to different care systems to try to get information on her. So we did file an RO, and as time went by, we got a criminal protective order, which was really wonderful. She did stay in shelter for quite some time because it was just safer for her. We kind of asked for her parents, since they live so close to him, we were fearful that they might follow him. So we asked the parents not to meet up with her, and we helped them, you know, stay in contact over messaging and, you know, other platforms. And we begged Carol to stay off social media again, to not access any of her old email accounts, and please do nothing to reveal where you are, because she was safe. And that all became part of the safety plan as well. And then when I started looking at the app, I was like, oh gosh, I wish I had had this when we had Carol on with us, because all of these modules would have been so healthy, or helpful to have. Yeah, because Carol ultimately lived in the same small town, only miles away from the perpetrator. And eventually, you guys, she's going to go back to that. So again, we had to amend her safety plan. She was going to go back to live with her parents. So we had to talk about what that looked like. And all of this information would have been so helpful. I mean, this is what we did, but we did it kind of in a different manner. So my question here at the top is, what do you think Carol did to keep herself safe? Any ideas? I'm going to take a little drink while I'll give you a second. My time, I think I've probably surpassed it. I may need to wrap this up. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we're about 5 minutes over, but
Okay.
I think everyone's enjoying it. I know I am.
This is my last case, so I'm almost there. Yeah, she definitely stayed in contact with the advocate. Again, we were, staying in shelter, and the shelter was a tribal run shelter. They worked with us, allowed her to stay an extended period of time. As time went by, we were, he was moving on and going through the court and all of those things. Hopefully she was able to avoid him and his family. No direct communication. Stayed in contact with us. Yeah, totally. We developed that support system. She had an auntie, which was her dad's sister, that lived in a different county. She stayed with her for a little bit while while that was available. Yeah, she definitely listened to our instruction. She did certain things. Her and her parents, if they did go out, well, when she went home, she limited her going out, and she made sure that she never went out alone. Shopped at different stores, maybe stores that weren't directly in her neighborhood, but a little bit of a drive out. She actually saw the perpetrator once in a mall parking lot, and her mother didn't get out of the car. They immediately left. They saw him just from afar walking, and of course she got upset. Of course she called the advocate. We provided support. She was shaken up. That was the first time she had seen him since all of this had passed. She carried that protective order with her. We actually bought her a purse so she had something to carry it with. She eventually was able to get a job, and she got a job in another town. She still lived at home with her parents, but when she went to the job, she was careful about where she parked, just very aware. And what she's doing in all of this, you guys, is listening to her gut instinct. And if something didn't feel right, then she knew to reroute and do something else, something that made her feel more safe. We talked a lot about that. So Carol's case, the DA did pick it up in the original county. Her attorney negotiated a plea. We weren't happy with it, but it's not about us. Carol was okay with it. He did some jail time, had fines, public service, and probation. And we did have that protective order in place for quite a long time. But what I want to say, and I'm kind of breezing through this, so I'll skip oh, I did it again. Sorry, guys. So guess what? One day, months later, while Carol's working, she looks up and makes eye contact with the perpetrator, his girlfriend and brother. And guess what? The perpetrator makes a gesture towards her. And if you can see me, he does this number, okay? So, of course, she's shaken up, just looking at him, right? I'm so proud of this girl. She reaches into her back pocket. She gets out her cell phone. She's shaking, but she pretends to dial it, and she pretends to talk to somebody on the phone. She doesn't really do this at the time because she's too overwhelmed with fear. The perp sees her, thinks, oh crap, I better get out of here. She's probably calling the cops, and he leaves the store. Then she goes to a bathroom. She calls the advocate, has her meltdown. The advocate calms her. They discuss her safety plan. They call the police. They come. They actually talk to the store in which she was working, their security, and they're able to get the footage of him doing this number and being near her, and they were able to extend. That was a violation of the CPO, and he got some jail time. That brings us to the close, and I'm sorry I went over time. I want to say, Achima, thank you. If I can be a resource to you in any way, Here is my contact information. Please feel free to email me. It's sthornsberry@kawea.net. Thank you very much.
Samantha, thank you so much. We really appreciate you doing this great presentation for us today. If you'd like, I can put your information, your contact information on our event sign-in page or email to the folks that showed up today, and that way they'll have it.
Yes, this is Stephanie from NCTCC. Samantha, thank you again so much. It is a testament to your content and speaking style and skills that we have 34 participants still that haven't been dropping like flies, which usually happens at 2:29. So the fact, oh, we lost one, but that's okay. That's okay. Anyway, if you want to sign up for, thank you very much. And if you want to sign up for future NCTCC trainings, we've been doing a good monthly run of them. Please contact Cynthia. Follow us on our socials at NCTCC, Facebook, and I think we have an Instagram. Do we?
Yes.
Anyway, or cbochelle at nctcc.org. Any other contact info that you want to impart, Cynthia?
I think you did a good job there.
Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, we will say goodbye. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Cynthia. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody, for participating.